only show the screen, right? The flyer, and it will not hear our conversation, right?
No, it will hear our conversation because we're going live. Just a second.
How can it just only show the screen of the presentation, the first page of the presentation?
Only show the screen.
Yeah. Just a second. I think we need to mute. We're live now.
Hi, Sierra.
Hello.
Hi, Sierra. Please, you have to rename yourself because as I share the link, you are with my name.
I just noticed that. That's funny.
Yeah, next to your name, the three dots,
I
you put
just did it.
rename. Okay, yeah, you just did it.
Can
Thank
see?
you.
Yeah, okay. That's strange.
Hello, everybody. I hope everybody can hear me. If you can, please give us a heads up. Yes, thank you so much for joining us. We're just kind of waiting for a minute for some more people to join in. We have some more people in waiting. So first and foremost, as people are joining in, a warm welcome to all of you who have taken the time to join us from different parts of the world. I know in some places it's morning time. Here at our end, it's evening time. So this is very much appreciated. And as we start the session today, also taking the opportunity to say Happy International Women's Day. This is one of the reasons why we targeted today to have this online event. I'm just going to give a moment for our communications team to make sure that we don't have anybody else in the waiting room. Then I can give me a thumbs up and then I can continue. Perfect. Thank you, Samina. So before we go today for this important event, so my name is Mrinalini Rai, and I'm the Director for Women for Biodiversity. So I just wanted to share a little bit about the side event, the online event that we are having today. So first and foremost, it also comes in a very timely manner because, like I said, today is also we are commemorating the International Women's Day. And starting next week, if some of you are following it, you also have the CSW68, the Status of Women 68th session that will be starting next week from March 11th to the 22nd, with the priority theme of accelerating the achievement of gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls by addressing poverty and strengthening institutions and financing with gender perspective. And of course, International Women's Day theme is also saying investing in women. So having said that, today we have a very interesting panel. So what we are here for, and many of you are been following, is from the context of the CSW, the International Women's Day, and also housing those discussions and bringing some of the where we are trying to build in the Convention on Biological Diversity. It is a convention which is one of the land and then the biodiversity. So the CBD, the Convention on Biological Diversity, in its preamble, recognizes the vital role that women play in the conservation and sustainable use of biological diversity and the need for the full participation of women at all levels of policy making and implementation for biodiversity conservation. So since its third conference, COP3 in 1996, the CBD has recognized the importance of gender equality in achieving its objectives. And this is where we can view through the various decisions on different thematic topics. So this is what we will be doing today, is what we have done is we have compiled the COP decisions, gender sensitive or gender responsive COP, the CBD COP decisions from its beginning from COP1 to COP15, the last one that took place in 2022 in December. So the idea of us for it, and my colleague Ali is going to be sharing more information about it. Here, Olivier, is that what we will be doing today. Samina, if you can share the screen, please, with the objectives, the presentation, please. So before we start, we also have a keynote speaker, Olivier Rukundo, who's from the CBD Secretariat. Thank you so much for joining us. So before we go to this opening, we were waiting for you. Is a few things to get us started. First is that when you are signing in, please put your name and your organization and the language. So Sumina, if you can please screen share so it's clear for our participants. Is that if you could please put in your name, organization, and language. So if it's English, then you put EN. If you're Spanish, it's ES. And if it's French, it's FR. Just because that we are very happy that we are providing interpretation for Spanish and French. And for interpretation, if on your screen you will see a globe, we should give you an option of switching between French, Spanish, and English. So please use the language that you would like to hear today's online event for. And while we are having the presentation, we are hoping to have it for an hour, is to please introduce yourself in the chat, mentioning your name, organization, and country. And also please use the chat for any questions that you may have comprehensive information regarding COP, the CBD COP decision text from COP1 to COP15 that have incorporated gender responsive language. We also hope that this to encourage the efficient execution of policies and initiatives that incorporate gender perspectives, and also to foster the sharing of approaches to enhance collaborations among diverse stakeholders, encompassing governmental, non-governmental, civil society entities to propel progress towards a more encompassing and fair biodiversity agenda. So to get us started, I want to introduce today our panel. So first we have Olivier, Olivier Rukundo from the CBD Secretariat based in Montreal. So Olivier has over 15 years of progressively responsible experience in project and program management and policy development in the areas of biodiversity, agriculture, and sustainable development. And he currently serves as the head of the Peoples and Biodiversity Unit at the Secretariat of the Convention on Biological Diversity. We will try to minimize using acronyms, and where he oversees all matters related to Article 8J, which is traditional knowledge, and related provisions, as well as the gender and biodiversity portfolio. So I'll give a brief introduction, and my colleagues will put the full bios of profiles of our speakers on the chat. Having and presenting the decisions will be our research and policy associate, Alejandra Durate, who's based in Peru. And next, to also share their perspectives, also because they have been in one way or the other engaged in some of those processes since a couple of years. I'm very, very happy to have both Jackie Celis, who's the Senior Gender Program Manager at IUCN, and Kiera Daniels, the Policy Specialist on Gender and Environment from the UNDP's Nature Hub. So before me taking more time, I would like to welcome Olivier for your opening remarks for us to have this started. The floor is yours, Olivier.
Yes, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Yes. So thank you very much, Tina, for this introduction. I'm very pleased to join you here on this International Women's Day, which the theme, as you know, is to invest in women, accelerate progress. So on behalf of the Acting Executive Secretary of the CBD Secretariat, I'd like to sort of, first of all, congratulate the Women for Biodiversity for this initiative to hold this webinar, which is very timely, which coincides with this International Women's Day, but also timely in the sense that we are now in the process of implementing the Global Biodiversity Framework and the Gender Plan of Action. So these activities, we see them as Secretariat as very important in terms of sort of furthering the implementation of these two instruments, if you will. As you know, the CUMIN Global Biodiversity Framework aims to halt and reverse biodiversity loss for the benefit of people and the planet. In this framework, women play a critical role in biodiversity conservation and sustainable use in terms of ecosystem restoration and environmental justice. So as is recognized in the framework, successful implementation will depend on ensuring gender equality and empowerment of women and girls and on reducing inequality. As you also know, a specific target 23, aims at ensuring that equality through a gender-responsive approach, recognizing the equal rights and access to land and natural resources for women and girls, and for the full, equitable, and meaningful participation and informed participation and leadership at all levels of engagement in terms of policy, decision-making progress related to biodiversity. As I mentioned, the Target 23 is also accompanied by a very important gender plan of action, which has been adopted, and its successful implementation will depend on ensuring that gender equality and empowerment of women and girls and on reducing inequalities are all imperatives that are actually taken up by parties and other stakeholders in the implementation of the framework, the gender plan of action, and the CBD as a whole. So I'd like again to end my remarks by congratulating Women for Biodiversity for all the analysis, including the compilation that was just presented, and other inputs that have been given by the Women for Biodiversity in terms of accompanying the implementation of the gender-related consideration under the CBD. And we, with this, call on all other actors to join in terms of celebrating this International Women's Day by having a commitment to implement all the gender-related aspect of the convention, the Global Biodiversity Framework, and also to do this with a whole of society and a whole of government approach. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Olivier, for the opening remarks. And as you pointed out, this is a very crucial time. A lot of things are happening. And what we wanted to do was build those synergies, right? Because there is a very important meeting taking place in New York next week. So we really wanted to also bring these good decisions that have taken place in the Kunming-Montreal almost 2 years ago now. So also incorporating how decisions that have been taken in different spaces, including the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Frame, which was historic. It had very good inclusive language of Indigenous peoples, youth, women, but also very specific reference on human rights. And also, like you mentioned, a very strong aspiration already set forth for ensuring gender equality in its work. So I really hope that we can also translate and share this within the other spaces. So thank you so very much. Having said that, I would like to invite our young dear colleague, Alejandra Duarte, who is our, like I said, who has taken this task. So she has compiled this, has reviewed this, and I'm really happy to give the floor to her to present what she's found and give some of her reflections on the compilation. So Ale, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Tina. Sumira, can you please help me sharing the screen, the presentation? Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here on this webinar. I'm going to present this publication regarding gender equality and the Convention on Biological Diversity, which is a compilation of decision texts from COP1 to COP15 that we have been working in the past few months in Women for Biodiversity. Next slide, please. Okay, so gender equality is a central issue in major multilateral environmental agreements, which, as we know, are the international agreements aimed to environmental protection. So the CBD has made really progress, including gender equality in the different decisions of the convention, and also in the past COP, as Oliver said, with the Gender Plan of Action and also with the Target 23. And a first recognition of the vital role of women is in the preamble, where CBD emphasizes the vital role that women play in the conservation and sustainable use of biological diversity. So it also underscores the need for women's full participation at all policy-making levels for biodiversity conservation. But women's involvement and decision-making and policy level is still unsatisfactory, and also their control over natural resources is very limited. Next slide, please. So I have this for doing elaborating this publication. We have two starting points. First was the compilation of decision texts made by WIDO and the Secretariat of the CBD that goes from COP1 to COP10. So these are direct quotes from decisions agreed text. And then, please, next slide. We have the gender analysis made by the IUCN that goes from COP1 to COP12. So this technical guide has a purpose to identify gaps in decision making. So it is not just identification of decision text that holds that specifically mention gender and woman. It also includes the recommendations made on SBI and SABSTA, and also reference to gender. Next slide, please. And so we basically had these two starting points, and then had analyzed the COP decisions that were made between COP1 and COP15 following the WIDO publication. So we have the specifically text that mention gender and woman on agreed decisions from COP. We don't use, in our publication, we don't use recommendations, no? So our aim is to inform decision makers, negotiators, indigenous peoples, local communities, women and youth, civil society and business, and the whole of society who are engaged in the planning, monitoring, and implementation of the Common Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned before, the first time that woman has been mentioned on the CBD COP decisions is in 1993, where the convention was ratified by all the parties. But it is not, please, click. Okay, again, and again. So it is recognizing the preamble that women play in the vital role that women play in the conservation and sustainable use, and also the need for full participation of women at all levels of policy making and implementation for biological diversity conservation. Now, so this is the first recognition that we have of women and the CBD in 1993, but it's not until COP3. So Sumita, can you please help me with yeah, it is not until COP3 that we have a mention of women and gender in the decisions, but it's only limited to agricultural and biodiversity decisions and to conservation. And there, can you support? Okay. So there are only two mentions in these two decisions, one in the conservation and sustainable use of agricultural, and also an implementation of Article 8J. So it does not mention the woman specifically, but it promotes the gender balance. No, so so after the preamble, the decisions of COP1 and COP2 that didn't mention any of these woman or gender balance or promote anything until COP3, and then also with the click, Samina, can you support me? Okay, and then on COP3 also, I'm sorry, on COP4, we don't have any gender decisions yet, but until COP5, after COP5, all the decisions from COP5, they have, yeah, yes, the slide. Okay. Oh, that's all the presentations. Okay, so after COP5, all the COPs have decisions that mention gender and woman specifically. No, so it is in COP9 in 2008 that the first gender plan of action was adopted. So after the gender plan of action was adopted, we can see that there are more decisions that were more gender decisions being adopted and agreed, no, and on the next COPs. We have found that there's a total of 100 decisions with language that promote gender balance or woman participation in the CBD COP. Please, next slide. Okay. But if we can see in the total amounts, like the proportion of the gender and the gender decisions in each COP, the COP13 and the COP15 have almost the half of gender decisions per decisions adopted. No, so in total of the history of the COP, of the CBT COPs, we have almost 500 decisions adopted, and only 100 are gender decisions. Please, next slide. Okay, so that's on the total of amount of gender decisions in each COP and in the time of each COP. But if we focus in the issues under the CBD, the areas of negotiation, we can see that most of the decisions adopted are in the area of conservation. So we have 19 decisions under this area that also includes, like, for example, ecosystem approach. And the other thematic areas have 14, and strategic plans also 14 decisions adopted. The thematic programs are, for example, mountain biodiversity, agricultural biodiversity, forestry biodiversity. And a reason of this is because it is well known that women possess unique knowledge and responsibilities regarding the sustainable use and conservation of natural resources, particularly rural and indigenous communities and indigenous women. So they're also, disproportionately vulnerable to biodiversity loss, and its impact to their families, livelihoods, and health. So maybe that's one reason why in this conservation area is the woman, it's more promote the full participation and the recognition of the vital role of women in the gender, in the decisions under the COP. And the strategic plan, are, for example, the RG targets or the national strategic plans. Next slide, please. Okay. So, and if we focus how women and gender are addressed under these decisions, we can see that most of these decisions promote gender balance. Now, with the 35%, we have also mentions and recognition of women as powerful agents and key stakeholders, but a really short, low percentage that recognize women and girls as vulnerable group. These mostly be found on climate and change decisions. So while gender equality is crucial, we cannot focus only on the numerical balance of the woman participation, because we have to also address the structural causes of inequalities, and such as gender stereotypes and discrimination. And women as powerful agents and key stakeholders, we have to also be recognized. We are key stakeholders to biodiversity conservation and sustainable use of it, but we also need to be recognized as leader, experts, and so we have to promote to change this narrative, and not also being recognized as vulnerable group, but also as leaders and agents of solutions, also in climate change, in mitigation and resilience with climate change. So we can use this information now to promote, change the narrative, so how women and gender are addressed in the CBD decisions. Next slide, please. So here we have some conclusions. So by promoting gender responsive policies and programs and addressing gender-based inequalities, we can ensure that the benefits of biodiversity are equitable, distributed, and the biodiversity conservation and management efforts are effective and sustainable for a just future for all. But we also need concrete actions to translate this recognition of gender in the decisions adopted, so to be reflected in national and regional level. So it is also important to build stronger awareness among decision makers around the role of women, because we have, although we have 100 of decisions that being recognized that specifically recognize woman and gender, we also need, and we have more decisions that doesn't specifically mention woman and gender that can be promoted. No, for can we go back to the other slide, Samina, the previous one? Yes, thank you. Because if we focus here, indigenous, rural, and farmer women and girls are recognized directly in these decisions, but we are missing another a group of women. For example, the participation, the recognition of the woman in the fisheries chain value. No? So this can also be promoted because this work made by women, it's been the contributions made by women on this sector, it is not being fully recognized in this policy level. Okay, so what are the next steps for this publication? So, Samina, can you please help me pass to the other one? Yeah. So what are the next steps for this publication? So this report will be translated in the 6 UN official language. So by May this year. So we want this information to be shared in different levels, in different sectors, and also that everyone inside the UN can have this information on their own language, no? So we're going to translate this publication in Arabic, Russian, Chinese, well, English, French, and Spanish. And just to be clear, what I meant with gender decisions are the decisions that specifically mention women, gender, and girls in their language or under agreed text. No? So that's are the gender decisions that we have identified along the COP, the CBD COP histories. Well, thank you so much. So if you have any question regarding the publication or any other questions, we are going to have a segment of question and answer after the reflections of Jackie and Ciara. No, and also you can share it on your chat. So please share your questions on the chat so we can address it on this segment. So, well, that's all for the publication of the COP gender decisions, and I want to start with giving the floor to Jackie Siles, who is the Senior Gender Program Manager of the IUCN. Well, Jackie is an agricultural engineer and has worked on the Mesoamerican region for more than 20 years in environmental projects that promote sustainable and equitable human development. And she's a Senior Gender Program Management for the Human Rights and Conservation team at IUCN, working to mainstream gender and human rights to initiatives and policy process with different donors. So, Jackie, thank you so much for being here and for support the reviewing of this publication and all your support during this elaboration of drafting of the publication. And well, all the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. And Ale, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can.
Okay, well, first of all, I would like to thank our colleagues for Women for Biodiversity for the invitation to participate in this webinar, which is commemorating International Women's Day. The International Union for Conservation of Nature joined all of you to celebrate this date and to continue investing in promoting the inclusion of all women in their diversity, to accelerate gender equality, to achieve the halting of biodiversity loss, as well as the sustainable use and conservation of biological diversity. The document just presented by Alejandra of the compilation of texts related to gender from the first COP to COP15 helps to make visible the effort through time of civil society, indigenous people, and local communities, as well as negotiators, for having a global biodiversity framework which contributes to advancing women's rights, that invests in their empowerment, their inclusion, and their participation in decision-making related to biodiversity. For IUCN, the information contained in the compilation document is a very useful resource for our advocacy work of promoting the advancement of human rights, gender equality, and gender-responsive approach in the Convention of Biological Diversity. The IUCN is made up of various members from civil society organizations, indigenous peoples organizations, to environmental ministries and governments, and all can use this information to influence, encourage, and help societies around the world to conserve the integrity and diversity of nature, and ensure that the use of natural resources is equitable and ecologically sustainable. In IUCN, we also have noticed that the information presented in this document makes visible which areas of the negotiation of the convention framework it is necessary to make more efforts to advance in gender, and where there are biggest gaps. So that consideration of women's rights, the consideration of women's rights, inclusion, equitable distribution, and active participation are strengthened in those areas under the Convention of Biodiversity. In addition, having a clearly indicated what text has been negotiated in previous COPs on gender issues helps also negotiators to move forward in the incorporation of new text, and therefore no waste time negotiating a text that has been upon agreed. So with this, we hope that the content of the compilation will be used to make and help the work to advance human rights and gender equality by negotiators, by decision makers, and civil society more effective. It is crucial for biodiversity-related policies and initiatives to incorporate gender perspective in all phases of decision-making and implementation process. At IUCN, we also see the potential of using the information collected at the national level. Often we know negotiators are not gender experts, but the information contained in the document can help them to better communicate how to make global mandates applicable to the national levels. Likewise, civil society organizations in the countries have the information that provides them with arguments to their demands, which can make processes such as the updating of the NBSAP more inclusive, participatory, and gender responsive. We all know that women are agents of change. And as a user, manager, knowledge of holders and stewards of ecosystems, women have demonstrated that the equal participation in conservation leads to better environmental outcomes. For example, gender balance and women lead forest and fishery management groups not only improve ecosystem restoration and protection, but also increase accountability and transparency, and ensure benefits are distributed more equally. Women's environmental decision-making has been linked to a stronger environmental policies, including better ecosystem conservation and protection outcomes, better national resilient outcomes, higher reduction of CO2 emissions, and a higher probability of ratifying environmental treaties. While gender-blind policies perpetuate women discrimination and can increase the risk of women experience gender-based violence. However, despite these findings, it is estimated that at the current rate, parity between women and men in political leadership, it will take 162 years to achieve. I want to say that every day at IUCN, advancing gender equality in the environment is a priority for us. So we invite all of you to consider how we can make meaningful and transformative investments to promote gender equality, women economic empowerment, and to increase a decrease of women leadership in the environmental sector, so that all can contribute to the implementation of the current multi-layered global biodiversity framework and also its gender action plan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jackie, for your words. Yes, as you said, this publication can support different people involved in the implementation of the GBF to promote the gender equality, to promote the full participation of women in all levels of the CBG in areas that have not been recognized yet, no? Or to promote another type of contributions made by women, not only on conservation or in traditional knowledge. No, so this can give us to highlight where we can do more, when we can start working for this promotion. Well, thank you so much for your words. And now I want to give the floor to Ciara Daniels. Ciara Daniels is a policy specialist on gender and environment in UNDP's Nature Hub. She has been working to put gender equality at the heart of caring for people and planet. She works with different countries and partners to promote women's leadership, natural resource management, close gender gaps, and accelerate women's rights in environmental action. Well, this includes providing technical advice, capacity building, policy coordinations, and quality assurance across UNDP's environmental vertical portfolio. So thank you so much, Ciara, also to support us and during the drafting of this publication with your insights. And thank you so much for being here today and give us your quick reflections on this publication. So I give you the floor. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Ale, and thank you to Women for Biodiversity for making this space today and for putting together this resource. It's a really welcome update to the previous version, so congratulations. And wonderful to be here on International Women's Day, of course, which is a day to remind everyone of the radical notion that women in all their diversity are people. So this resource and the really insightful analysis that Ali presented, I think shows us the importance of looking at our history, show how far we've come, and as Jackie pointed out, how much further there is to go, where there's still gaps. I really appreciate that graph showing the instances of gender in COP decisions over the past 30 years and the real upward trend we see, especially since 2010. There was a lot of other milestones around that time. The Global Environment Facility launched their first gender policy. The Cancun Agreement recognized gender and women are critical in climate action. UN Women was formed. And there was a lot of feminist organizations organizing and advocating around that time. I also appreciate that the insights on the decisions showing that conservation is most commonly linked. And as Jackie said, that points to areas where we have gaps to fill. So at UNDP, we do have the largest environment portfolio in the UN system and a longstanding mandate on gender. We're now implementing our Nature Pledge, which is UNDP's commitment to support more than 140 countries in achieving their goals under the Global Biodiversity Framework. And the vision of the Nature Pledge is a world where nature has moved to the heart of global understanding of sustainable development, where nature is being protected, restored, and sustainably used as a planetary safety net for humanity. And the central challenge underlying this work is that power over nature is skewed, and gender inequality plays a big part. Gendered structural barriers, power dynamics shape who accesses, controls, and benefits from nature, and who suffers its losses disproportionately. And both nature and women's unpaid care work are really undervalued in current economic systems, with economic interests sort of treated as mutually exclusive or a trade-off between environmental interests and gender equality. So through the Nature Pledge, UNDP is working to ensure at least 100 countries promote women's leadership and natural resource management, close gender gaps, accelerate women's rights and environment action. So that includes working with countries and partners to ensure gender responsive MB steps, working on shifting financial flows to account for gender and nature through the Biodiversity Finance Initiative, for instance. I couldn't agree more with one of your points, Alejandra, on one of the last slides on the need for concrete action to ensure that the decisions compiled, and especially in the latest gender plan of action, are turned into effective gender equality promotion. And to me, that means things like prioritizing support for women's groups and collective action, including driving more financing to women's groups, working more on women's land tenure, access, ownership rights, broadening our understanding of ecosystem restoration to be inclusive and utilizing Indigenous knowledge, working on gender-based violence prevention and response in environment projects. And I'm sure that the group here today has many more ideas, and I see some in the chat, so it'd be good to see even more of those. So I think it's clear from this conversation and what we see from decades of CBD decisions is that gender equality will help deliver biodiversity targets, but significant support is needed. And the latest global biodiversity framework, its gender targets, its gender plan of action really open up opportunities, point to solutions, but we need to work together to deliver them. So thank you again for this resource that helps build such great awareness. It certainly will be useful for our work at UNDP. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Ciara, for shared also the work that UNDP is doing right now. And I'm really glad that this will be a useful tool for the UNDP and the work that it's doing. Okay, so now I'm going to start with the questions and answers. So if you have any questions do want to be addressed, so we have some participants have already put their questions in the chat. Emma asked, how are you categorizing it as a gender decision? Well, the gender decisions are the decisions that specifically mention woman, gender, and girls in the agreed text. And also, then you said that COP15, 46% of all decisions promoted gender equality. That's great, isn't it? Or do we want higher ambitions for COP16? And how are MBSAPs looking on this? So we have COP15 and COP13 that are the conference that have adopted the most decisions with texts promoting gender equity and women. However, most of the decisions are focused on conservation and traditional knowledge. And so we still have the gap of recognitions of women contributions in other areas on biodiversity and sustainable use of biodiversity conservations and its sustainable use that are not fully recognized or full participations of women. Okay. So Emma, I don't know if you want to remove the mute and ask, because you made here another question, and explain a little more about. Okay. Emma, do you want to?
Hi, yes, I can do. Sorry, I'm quite new to this area, so I'm just trying to understand. And obviously, there's so many targets across the GBF, and I'm quite interested in this one around gender equality. So I'm just kind of trying to understand where we're at with all of this. And thank you for sharing the report. Those were really interesting insights, and it's great to see that how far we've come on this from COP1 to COP15. Great analysis. So I was just trying to understand so where we're at. So you were saying that most of the references and contributions focused around conservation and traditional knowledge, but there's still a lack of recognition of women's other contributions in areas of biodiversity. And I just wondered what if you could share maybe a few examples of what they are, so we kind of know what to focus on.
Yes, for by now only a farmer, a woman in the agricultural sector, like farmer women and rural women, are specifically recognized, no? But we have a participation of women, for example, in fisheries or in the forestry sectors that are not recognized in the decision texts. So this also, we can like promote the inclusion of these contributions of women on the sustainable use of biodiversity and in the thematic areas, because the issues under negotiation of the CBD also includes forestry and biodiversity and marine and coastal biodiversity. So this is something we can look for promote in the next following meetings.
I see, thank you. So specifically looking at those different industries and sectors and the massive contributions that women make in the fishery sector or forestry and other marine and coastal infrastructures, and really calling those out and recognizing the contributions. That's great, thank you.
Yes, and well, Tina, Jackie, Sarah, do you want to give your inside view of this question?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's a very interesting question. This is also give us like a sign that why we don't have more issues on fishery and forestry if we have data that really show that women, the women participation in fisheries, for example, in processing and in marketing is really huge. So I think that's a call of attention for us, and maybe also to open the space for more organizations working in those sectors to come and join us. I'm thinking about all the networks that we have that exist in Asia about fisheries that are really strong, that we need to make possible that they hear their voice and really open the space to them to advocate and make possible that all that participation of their role that women are playing in fisheries and forestry are recognized in the text of the different, in this case, all the areas that we are really weak.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Tina, are you going to give an answer regarding the question? Or?
Yes. No, thank you so much. And just building up from Ale and from Jackie, these are very important questions. From my perspective, I won't repeat it, but I think that one of the key elements, as we're looking about investing in women, I'm going to link that up, is that the gender plan of action is very ambitious, right? You have the global biodiversity framework of 23 targets with a lot of things from chemicals, waste, marine, climate change, protected areas, restoration. The aspirations are really very high, But what I really see gap around, and I think this is what we're also trying to approach the parties, is that there also has to be adequate funding and directed funding to really ensure that the implementation of the gender plan of action is there. Because currently there really isn't any specific allocation to roll out the gender plan of action, because the gender plan of action is unfortunately it has a voluntary status. So we really need to push, like what we said is, I think kind of tying up is when we talk about investing in women, we really need to make sure that any component, and I keep telling everybody that our work is fantastic that we got Target 23, and this has given us a tool to not see, and I encourage everybody also, is not to see Target 23 as a standalone. Okay, how do we implement Target 23? Because looking at all your experiences and which organizations you are coming from, the work that you are doing, the idea is having the Target 23 is to validate, is to push forward all the other work that everybody is doing, which is literally the 3 pillars of the convention. So Target 1 to Target 23. So the idea of ensuring, like the SDGs, the idea of ensuring that how Target 23 is going to be achieved, not by only looking at participation, but looking at how will you look at chemicals, waste, and pollution? What are gender relevant discussions out there? What are the actions and what is the money? You're talking about restoration, which is Target 2. How are you going to ensure that Target 2 is gender responsive? If it's going to be on Target 3, which is the area-based conservation, commonly known as 30 by 30, how are you really going to make sure that the work around that is gender responsive? So I think that the Target 23 is a tool for us to strengthen all the other commitments that parties have made to the convention. Like I said, what I think Ali also shared about, and I wanted to quickly also share, is that conservation. Anybody who talks about biodiversity, we look at conservation, but also understanding that we always forget that the 2 very important pillars which have not been touched upon so much, including not only from Indigenous peoples' perspective, but also from gender, is on sustainable use. Though decisions recognize the sustainable use of women, what actions have been placed, I don't know. But also ensuring that access and benefit sharing. This is the 3rd component of the convention, not only the GBF, but the convention, and how will you really make sure that the access and benefit sharing is also equitable, because it talks about equitable benefit sharing, but it again misses the component of addressing where do women's rights to access and benefit sharing come within that framework. And also one last thing from my side, which Jackie and Kiera talked about, a very, very, very crucial element, which I think has not been picked up so much, is also saying that the CBD has also been really very ambitious. The first Rio Convention regarding Target 23 is that it has a provision for ensuring that participation of people with disabilities there. We haven't even started that conversation at all. And also saying that the human rights defenders is within a target. So these are the very core elements which are very relevant for having an inclusive biodiversity. So we still have a long way to go. And I'm just sharing this as knowing that all of you do come from different programming, is to not only looking at conservation, but also in your space of work, whether you're coming from climate change, you're coming from CSW, you're coming from the SDGs, these have an implication. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you. I see some more hands up.
Thank you so much, Tina. Gloria, do you want to share your question with us, please?
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation. I asked that because I just finished a book that is Living in Harmony with Nature. And I did it in English because there is more information. And I am in the translation of French and Spanish. And I would love to do it in all the languages. So that's what I am asking you. How will you manage to do that? Do you have a funding? I listen to you. Thank you.
Okay, so regarding this publication, we are funded by Sweat Bio, but it's work done by a Woman for Biodiversity, and we also had the technical support from UNDP and IUCN. But yeah, we are funding this initiative with Sweat Bio funding. I don't know, Tina, if you want to address a little bit more about this question.
Miss Gloria, I just sent a message, but it says that we all also work through networks. So like I said, we also started voluntary for 4 years, but also understand that we have the network. So please send us an email and we will definitely see what we can do about it. Of course, it has to also align with our work, but you know, me or somebody else will also be interested to, or I would also be interested to see the publication, even if it's in English.
Yeah.
So please send us an email and we can take it from there.
Yeah, I am in the last, I am including because I sent to person to have comments because huge. I was going to do only at the beginning 3 chapters, that it was the convention before Rio, before Stockholm, and finish being in 7 chapters. So it's a huge publication. Somebody now suggested, because I'm talking about the ocean too, to include that, and that's what I'm working today on the observation systems. It's a mix. It's as I said.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, maybe chapters of that, like you said, they're relevant. So please send us an email and we'll be happy to either support. I've put my email, we have put the email, sorry, I put the email on the chat. So please email us.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sierra?
Yeah, I wanted to just come in briefly on the MBSTAPs because I saw a little bit of discussion about this. I think this is so important, and some of the points Tina raised. This is, I think, really needs to be acknowledged. This is a challenge for countries and will be to meaningfully, substantively integrate gender in MBSTAPs. And the funding to do the enhanced MBSTAPs and MBSTAP updates is already really quite small for each country. So we want the gender integration to be seen as an enhancement to this work, not as a taking away. It's quite a big ask. And I think we could have a whole discussion just around that. But I wanted to put into the chat some findings that UNDP put together from countries doing their 6th national reporting on MBSTAPs recently, and trying to really make them gender responsive. The biggest challenge that countries identified was data, gender data, and sex disaggregated data. I think that can be unpacked a bit more, but it kind of gets at our conversation around what is visible and not visible in terms of women's contribution to biodiversity, access and benefit sharing, restoration, so many issues. But I think that publication and resource will be quite interesting because countries were polled as part of this, surveyed what their challenges were, and even ahead of capacity and resources, data came up. So I'll share that. Back over to you. Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah. Now that you are with the spotlight, here we have another question. It is, do you think that the GBF targets are doing enough to support SRHR and family planning projects to support women in local communities, allowing them to dedicate more time and labor to conservation measures instead of childcare, such as population health environment-based approach? I don't know, Madeleine Hewitt, if you want to unmute yourself and to this question. Madeleine?
Hello, sorry, I just had to unmute myself. Yeah, so I just wanted, obviously we're talking a lot about how women-led conservation can be so successful and it's important to dedicate resources to that. But I know for a lot of women in like rural communities and obviously living in like subsistent farming situations where on like the borders of very important ecological areas, one of the things that tends to hold them back from being able to participate in conservation is childcare, or the fact that they don't have access to contraception. So they have large families and are highly dependent on like young children. So I was just wondering, yeah, whether or not you think you should support family planning measures a bit more.
Sarah, do you want to address the question?
Yeah, thank you. I think the whole concerns around unpaid care, the labor that that women put into so many things, and including biodiversity conservation, and then coming in with environment projects that are targeting women, centering women, but end up maybe adding to their work burden is something that's really not looked at enough. And I think concerns and the importance of supporting reproductive health options, birth control is not an area being looked at enough either. This is very much, I think, siloed in the UN system for sure. But I'm happy you raised it. Maybe others have some experience with this. I'm not sure if IUCN does.
In the case of IUCN, we really recognize that the reproductive work of women is something that stop them. It's a challenge that they face in order, to participate. There is something that we have been trying to do more now in our projects in order to address this, and is to develop male strategies, male engagement strategies, because one of the things that we think we should improve is, the responsibility of men into the reproductive work. So this is something that we have been doing lately. We have even recently developed some manuals that deals with male engagement and positive masculinity to, work from this angle in this issue of distribution of the reproductive work more equally among women and men. So this is something, if you want, I can share some of the resources that we have in the chat too.
Thank you so much, Jackie and Sarah, for your insights of this question. I don't know, Tina, if you want to add anything.
No, Ali, I think we're almost also crossing time. I'm already addressing some of those questions in the chat. Yeah, just building up by saying that one way to really look into like compare some of those work is around maybe, and we will share it out, going to the CBD and gender webpage and looking at some of the publications that they have there. They also have a training module available, and also a booklet of good practices. So you could basically kind of maybe get, one way would be also to just look into the webpage of the CBD to just get a hands-on little bit experience of what the CBD's thematic discussions are and what kind of elements they work on. So I'm going to leave it at that, and I will put some links on the chat. Thanks, Ale.
Well, thanks, Gina. Okay, so as Tina said, we have been a little bit of time now. So yes, Gina.
Sorry, Ale. I'm coming back in again because I see some familiar names there, because I also want to acknowledge some of the CBD focal points I hear. So I really appreciate you taking the time to get here, including that some of you are very well aware of the CBD, including some of you are also now the gender focal points for the CBD. So thank you so much for joining. Just like the question, question on the chat. One of the way that there is someone who put up some publications, which is one of the UNDP publication that just recently got published maybe a week ago, where UNDP has done an analysis of the national reporting and has kind of also given some key pathways that could be helpful. And I wanted to take this opportunity because I know that some of the parties are already working on either revising or updating your NBSAPs. And I'm really happy that some of you are working on also looking at gender indicators. So some of those reflections would be really very good to see. Also, I think one to everybody also who are here, to also say that one of the key elements that we are trying to also work with are that the CBD within the gender plan of action had also mandated, I would say, urged or requested parties to the convention to nominate their CBD gender national focal points. So it'd also be very good if you are working. I know there are some colleagues from Africa and others who have kind of had some queries. That is also where to start off is to, if you look at your own NBSAPs and see what the government is planning, and also scope out if there are some gender focal points being allocated from your region. And if there is also, you would want to have more information from either one of us, IUCN, UNDP, even for biodiversity, please feel free to also reach out. So maybe we might be helpful to also direct you where to look for information. So I just wanted to say that. I won't have time to respond to all the chat.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tina. And I don't know, Sumina, do you want to share some indication with us, with all the participants?
Yeah, hi. Hello, everyone. If everybody could open up their webcam so that I can take a group picture for the event.
Thanks, Sumina. So please, if we can all open the webcam so we can have this event picture on all our social medias and I have this beautiful reminder of this event. Sumina, you let us know when we can stop smiling.
Yes, now you can stop smiling. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Jackie from IUCN, to come and give us your reflections on this publication. And also Ciara, thank you so much, Ciara, for both of you, for all the meetings, the insights, and all the support that you gave during the drafting of this publication. And also I want to thank Sweatvayo for this, and for interpreters from Spanish and French, because with them all these webinars and language justice is possible. So thank you for the interpreters too. And I'm really glad that you all enjoy the webinar. We're going to share all the PPTs in the presentation, in the links that Sumina shared in the chat. And please join our newsletter so you can be updated with all our events and all the work that we are doing. So thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next time.